This video is about understanding MYP assessment at Munich International School. Firstly, you need to know about formative assessment. This happens during class time and it provides students with ongoing feedback. The teachers collect, analyse, interpret and use a variety of different evidence to improve your learning and to help you achieve your potential. Formative assessment provides important opportunities for you to practice, rehearse or refine your performance of understanding as you prepare to complete the summative assessments. What about a summative assessment? Well, these happen at the end of the unit and they're opportunities for you to show your understanding. They're tools for teachers to see what you know, what you understand and what you can do. All the summative assessment tasks will be linked to the MYP subject criteria. There should be a variety of different assessment tasks. You shouldn't always, for example, for criterion A, be assessed using tests. There should be a range of different tasks, like the examples shown below, because it could be that you're not very good at writing essays, but you're absolutely brilliant at performances, and there should be a range to help you show your understanding. So, what's the difference between formative and summative? As I said, formative assessment is an aid to the learning process, it's diagnostic, and most importantly, it's assessment for your learning. Whereas summative assessments happen at the end of the learning process, they are evaluative, they are used to assign levels of achievement and finally a grade, and they are an assessment of your learning. So here are the language and literature criteria. There are 4 criteria. Criterion A, analysing, criterion B, organising, C, producing texts, and D, using language. And the maximum or the highest, the best result that you can achieve is in every subject an 8. Now this is the same in science as well. Actually, it's the same in all the different subject areas. Criterion A is usually about your subject knowledge, what you know, what you understand, how you inquire. Whereas criterion B is about how you organise yourself for your learning, how you're investigating, how you're developing skills, how you're planning, etc. Criterion C in all the different subjects is more about creativity and communication, taking action or applying what you've learned. Criterion D is really about the subject skills in a way. It's about using language, for example, or evaluating and reflecting. So in your different subjects, you'll be studying different units of work. There'll be a lot of learning going on, there'll be formative feedback, and you'll have the opportunity to practice the skills that you need for the summative. And at the end of the unit, the teacher will outline the summative assessment, and you should know beforehand which criteria you're being assessed on. So then, of course, you'll do the formative work, and finally you will write or perform your summative assessment for the teacher to grade. So let's look at language and literature criterion A as our example, but just note here that year 3 at MIS actually means grade 8. Now, criterion A, analysing, has 4 different strands, 4 different things that you need to be showing that you understand in the summative. But not all the criterion strands might be used for a particular assessment task because they just might not be relevant to that task. It's important that you look at the strands to see what you have to do, and of course it's important to look at the level 7-8 because that's the best quality work to make sure that you're including everything that you need to do to reach the highest levels. So in a way, the criteria and the levels of achievement are like buckets of water that get filled up from the bottom to the top. The IB achievement descriptors are fairly general, so many times the teachers will provide you with something called task-specific clarifications. This is a little bit of extra information that's specific to your summative assessment task, and it helps you to make sure that you understand what you need to do and that you include everything that is required. So let's imagine you've done several summative assessment tasks, and at our school in January and June we produce a grade for you, and I'll explain how that happens. So this student has completed 4 different summatives: a creative writing task, an analytical essay, a presentation, an oral presentation, and a research project. And you can see for criterion A, this student achieved level 4, then an 8, then a 4, and a 4. So the teachers have to then determine which is the most appropriate level to award at the end of the reporting period. So because this student 3 times achieved the level of a 4, that's the most consistent, or where they're generally working, so the most appropriate level becomes a 4. Now for criterion B, at the beginning of the year on the creative writing task, this student achieved the level of 8, which is the highest, then a 7, but then they went downhill and have achieved 2 5s. So generally speaking, it wouldn't be wrong to award a 5. Some teachers might be generous and award a 6 here, but it is the most consistent level that's important. Now note here on criterion C for the analytical and the research project, criterion C wasn't assessed. It was not relevant, so it's left out. There are only 2 assessments there for criterion C. Both are a 6, so it is absolutely certain that 6 is the most appropriate level. And similarly here with 4 4s, of course, the student has to get a 4 for their most appropriate level. And then the teachers need to add up all these numbers, and here the total is 19. And then we need to look at the grade boundaries, and you can see that 19 is the lower end for a grade of a 5. And so the student's final grade here would be a 5. Let's look at another example. So the same assessment tasks. This time on criterion A, the student achieved 4 5s, so definitely they get a 5 for their most appropriate level. Here they were awarded a 2 at the beginning of the year, but then they significantly improved and they were awarded 3 6s, so they get a 6. Teachers don't average it. It would be wrong really here to award a 5 or a 4 because the last 3 summatives the student was working at this level. This is where they're currently working, so they deserve a 6. Same thing with criterion C, not assessed here and here, but with 2 8s the student gets an 8. For this criterion D, the last 2 summatives were a 6, so I think to be fair, teachers should award a 6. Again, if somebody gave a 5, maybe that's okay, but I would say generally a 6 would be the more correct level here. So the total, when you add up the most appropriate level here, is 25. 6 and 6 is 12, and 8 is 20, and 5, 25. So 25 is between the grade boundary for a final grade of 6, and so that is the grade that the student gets. It's important to remember that these numbers for the criteria, they're called levels of achievement. Often they get called grades, but really they're levels of achievement. And then the next set of numbers, these are called the most appropriate level, or the MAL. And then we have the final grade. There's also a set of general grade descriptors. So this table shows the grade from 1 to 7 with the grade boundaries, and then there's a description of what the student performance or understanding looks like here. So I hope that information helps you understand assessment, and most importantly that you can use that information to improve your performance. And now there's a quiz about assessment on It's Learning for you to complete. Thank you for listening.